Ric Flair slams Seth Rollins over the Raw fan attack incident. Plus, a former AEW champion is taking time off. And Randy Orton breaks another WWE record. It's all in the wrestling news right now. Ric Flair, he's been chatty lately, hasn't he?
An awful
Nation
lot.
podcast.
An awful lot, yeah. Always got something to say, does Rick?
Oh, and he had some more to say. So, you know, Seth Rollins had that attack from a fan.
Yeah, got jumped. You know, the guy jumped the barricade and then just shoulder blocked him, and Rollins went flying, and it must have been terrifying. And Jesus.
Well, Seth Rollins even said as much. It was terrifying. He was terrified by it, and after the attack, Ric Flair has taken a bit of Dolores umbrage with Seth Rollins being terrified by a fan attack. He says, "My problem with Seth is that you're a top guy in this business, and if you're a top guy in this business and you know anything about the psychology of what the fans think and feel, which is they really do, you never, ever, 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 ever get off an airplane in LA and say, I was terrified. Terrified of what? Terrifying, Seth, is being in an airplane crash. If you were terrified or horrified, you were terrified or horrified by a wrestling fan? Come on, man. What I would have done if I was Seth, which everybody should learn from this, is that even though the referees had the guy, I'd have jumped back on him. Even if I never got a shot in, I know your answer's going to be, well, there's lawsuits and all that. WWE would have covered the lawsuit. Seth would have never got to him. You never admit you got your ass kicked, much less being horrified or terrified. This podcast is brought to you by Blue Chew.
And herein lies the generational divide. So, Ric Flair was in an awful plane crash, and I get that is a much more terrifying experience than having somebody jump you. But at the same time, the way wrestling works now is that these people are publicly pretty much known as actors, to the point where half of them have just got their real name as their social media name. This is always going to, kind of cause issues with the older generation who's like, back in my day, I'd have stabbed that fan 6 times and I would have thrown his head to the audience. Like, it's Undertaker, back when there were guns and cocaine and shootings in the locker room. And it's what? It's a different world now.
It's a different world.
And if Seth had jumped back on the fan and Seth had laid it in, knowing everything that came out after the fact, Seth would have been seen as kind of on the wrong side for jumping back on him. Whereas security getting in the way and Seth just screaming a couple of MFs in front of some, 10-year-olds on the front row, and he walks off, then fine. If you don't want him to admit he was scared, I get the whole tough guy wrestling thing, but at the same time, the world's changed now to the point where people kind of know these are, for lack of a better word, performers, actors. Like they're playing a role, and people are going to be like, "Wow, that was scary," and he'll be like, "Yeah, it was." And it'll be something that simple.
Yeah, it's true. I always think it's weird how Ric Flair compares being jumped by a fan to being in an airplane crash. He's like, hey, that's not terrifying. Terrifying is being in an airplane crash. You can only be terrified if you're in an airplane crash.
This year. Are you going to Greece? So that's lovely. I'm going to the moon.
Yeah, it's that. It's more the fact, Pablo one night was breathing really weird, and I was terrified because I was like, is my cat all right? It's not as terrifying as being in a plane crash. You're right, but you can't compare the two.
No, and
Pablo's fine, by the way.
He got hit hard, and that's not usually a place. Well, I mean, now that people don't comment, the fan who attacked Brett got in that way. It's not usually a place. It's not usually a place that you would see a fan jump in. But I know people will be like, well, that's where the guy who attacked Brett got in. I know that, but they should have tightened security. It's a whole thing. But yes, ultimately, Seth is allowed to feel scared. What's wrong with it?
It's easy to know what to do when you've watched it multiple times.
Yes.
And good mad time to think about it.
Yeah, and you're from an era where you could just kick the absolute poo out of somebody for jumping the barricade.
It is a tradition as old as time. A bit like WWE shows at Madison Square Garden.
Home. Nothing like it, is there?
Exactly. Home is where the hearth is.
And the mini ramp is. It's gone now, isn't it, though?
I'm so sad they got rid of that ramp in the middle, because that, to me, was an MSG show.
It was a special thing, yeah.
We had the short ramp.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I bet they loved doing the Royal Rumble 2000 and the one about 2008 at Madison Square Garden. Much shorter ramp.
Yeah.
I can, because you've got it, it's an endurance game anyway.
I like the dogleg ramp, though. I think it feels special.
I just think it's an endurance thing, the Rumble, anyway, and if you've got to do all that running...
Nah, just walk it.
I'll be packed. Yeah, but
90 seconds, person will be behind you, but they're going to take another 90 seconds to get down. It'll be all right.
You see it? It's a fair shout. But MSG, anyway, so WWE are beefing up the Madison Square Garden show for December 26th, Boxing Day, as we call it. So Big E, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens in a triple threat for the WWE title, and Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title in a steel. And both these matches are inside steel cages.
Nice.
Pop some cages around them. So we're getting... If
Christmas.
Christmas is all about fighting inside a cage. Isn't that the true Christmas spirit?
It's a return to WWE. It's a return by WWE to their tradition, though, of the Boxing Day shows, which is, they had to cancel last year due to COVID, but it's nice that they kind of keep that tradition rolling on, right?
They don't really do Boxing Day in America, do you?
I mean, what do we do for Boxing Day? It's just get more drunk and eat leftovers.
We eat more quality street than we care to imagine. We suffer relatives popping round for a bit.
Yeah.
And we sit very quietly, watch Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
Christmas. More often than not, my Boxing Day is spent pegging it back from home to get presumably to work the next day. So normally Boxing Day is a hilarious time. But if you're going along to the show, have a lovely time. You've got some cage matches. Get Seth Rollins some bolt cutters for Christmas. You'll win easy. As former AEW Women's Champion taking a little bit of a break.
Yeah, that's right. Hikaru Shida has announced that she's going to be returning to Japan in February for the Makai project, where she's known as Princess Suru. So the show Makai Genesis Reboot is scheduled for February 4th, 2022 at Kameari Ririo Hall. I think I got that right. Shida most recently wrestled for AEW on November 17th Dynamite. She lost to Nyla Rose in the quarterfinals of the TBS tournament. So, it kind of clears up time for her to go back and do some other stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm like Hikaru Shida. I think it's weird to see people go hot and cold on Hikaru Shida.
Yeah,
I think as an AEW Women's Champion, I think there was a lack of competitors. Some of that was obviously down to a lot of other issues happening around the world at that time. A lot of people put that down to a lack of proper creative for women's wrestling in AEW, something which they are very much doing something about now.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see Hikaru Shida have another go as women's champion, but with this now growing landscape around.
Yeah.
That'd be nice to see. New Broken Skulls Sessions has been announced, and Steve Austin is going. I'm looking forward to this one. Steve Austin is going to be in conversation on December the 19th with Diamond Dallas Page.
Very interesting man. A lot of stories to tell.
I was so happy when Page got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because it felt like he was helping get everybody else back on their feet.
Yeah.
And then they were getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I was like, that's... Because that was it. Because when the Jake Roberts documentary, The Resurrection of Jake Roberts, where he gets Jake ready, and then Jake tells DDP, they're putting me in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, that's so lovely. But why don't we put him down as Page in the Hall of Fame? He's saving people's lives.
Because he's not a WWF superstar, Tom. He's one of Ted Turner's toys.
He did the smiley thing.
Get out of here. He only went in because he felt bad and Vince felt bad about. No, it's like DDP deserves like all of the love in the world for everything he's done since his wrestling career and in his wrestling career, and this is going to be fascinating to hear because the guy started late. The guy's gone on to have a hell of a career post-wrestling and, just a lot going on.
He's a great hope for me as DDP, as somebody who got into the wrestling world in his late 30s and did all right. So cheers, Paige. You're bringing me hope, brother. I love this. Mick Foley was raising money for Jimmy Rave over this past week. So Jimmy Rave's story is heartbreaking. He was on Desert Island Graps to talk about this, and due to numerous medical issues, he ended up losing his arm last year. And earlier this year, again, as a result of further medical issues, he's lost both his legs. Both his legs were amputated. So Jimmy Rave has not only had that life-changing situation to deal with, but he's just been hit with a massive medical bill for it as well, which he said I'm struggling to pay for. And Mick Foley was part of a virtual signing and raised $22,000 towards Jimmy Rave's medical bills. And I think that's a class move.
Absolutely incredible.
Really class move. And there is a GoFundMe for Jimmy Rave if you want to support him. His story is heartbreaking, but big love to Mick Foley and those who supported as well, who were part of that virtual signing, because you've done something great to help somebody out who did a lot for the wrestling. So that's really, really cool of you. Finally, Randall Keith. He's only broken another record, hasn't he, Sam?
Yes, he has. So he's broken the record for the most matches in WWE history. Sorry, the most Raw matches in WWE history. Just restart there, Sam. The most Raw matches in WWE history. Yeah. So, going from the bottom to the top, what we've got here is John Cena with 373, Triple H with 377. Pathetic numbers. Chris Jericho with 420.
Big shout out to Chris Jericho, who was in Newcastle yesterday.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He was in Newcastle and he did a gig at the Riverside, on the quayside. And I love this because he put a thing on Facebook saying, had time to walk around Newcastle today and experience the city. And there's 3 pictures. There's one facing the River the Tyne, next to Spoons. There's one at the door of the same Spoons, and there's one facing the Tyne, but from the other direction.
Yeah,
I don't think you left the quayside, mate.
He went to Spoons, he enjoyed some nice cheap deals, and he probably got sold on Brexit by their awful magazine. But moving on, Kane had 436, and Randy Orton has now had 437 matches. So,
Kane, get back!
Congratulations to Randy Orton. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Kane just came back to knock out a couple. But Randy will still be going, won't he? So Randy's gonna have the lead here because Kane's too busy being there.
I've brought a pack of things to light cigarettes with. What do you mean? You said Randy Orton had more matches than me. That's not what we meant. Oh no! What a circumstance I find myself in. If you know, you know. Congratulations to Randy Orton. Look at the podcast drifting into the news. It's a good day. It's a good day had by all. Are you twitching tonight, or is someone twitching tonight?
I'm twitching. I have no idea what I'm doing yet. It's been a hell of a week. So yeah,
it has been.
We'll be there though, live 6 p.m. Twitch.tv/Cultaholic with something good.
Join the Sam Driver, and until then, stay safe. Love you. Bye.